The story of Isis and Osiris. Peace be upon you. My name is Dr. Adam Al-Amir, professor of ancient Egyptian civilization. I would like to speak with you about the development that transformed the ancient Egyptian from simple social interaction into a great civilization. The writing that Prophet Idris taught them was the foundation upon which this civilization was built. Through writing, the doctrine of monotheism was preserved, sciences were transmitted, and the arts were born. The first of these arts among the ancient Egyptians was the short story. Through it, people conveyed scenes from their lives, events they experienced, lessons, morals, and wisdom. Over time, it evolved into a crafted story intended for learning, reflection, and the transmission of wisdom. Eventually, we arrive at the storyteller, the Shakespeare of ancient Egypt, who composed stories with characters that interact, influence one another, and blend good and evil, emotion and reason, suffering and ambition. The first epic in history was produced, the story of Isis and Osiris. The storyteller adapted it from the story of Cain and Abel, giving its heroes names that carried meaning and symbolism for the Egyptians. The success of this epic had another impact that enriched artistic life in ancient Egypt, the beginning of personification. Sculpted figures of the epic's characters were created, and the main challenge for the ancient Egyptian sculptor was choosing what features would represent each character. Just as Prophet Idris used the creatures around him to create sacred inscriptions, the ancient Egyptian used his knowledge of the animals around him to invent symbolic forms and embodiments. Thus, he placed the head of the ibis on a man's body to signify wisdom, because of the bird's natural intelligence. He depicted Ma'at as a woman with the feather of justice on her head. But the embodiment that truly reflects the genius of the ancient Egyptian was that of Set, the brother and enemy of Osiris. He portrayed Set as a man with the head of the desert Salawa animal, which all Egyptians despised. In this way, forms were created to represent every cosmic force or attribute as a man or woman with a head that carried symbolic meaning.
The ancient Egyptian began by drawing these forms, then carving them on stone walls, and eventually sculpting full statues of these embodiments. Meaning became visible through the representation. When people saw the woman carrying the throne on her head, everyone knew she symbolized motherhood, magic, and fertility. Isis. Shakespeare was a product of the European Renaissance, creating plays that revealed the struggle between an individual's ambitions and instincts and the circumstances surrounding them. He is one of the geniuses of that era. But if we return to the Egyptian storyteller and the first epic, the story of Isis and Osiris, we find ourselves before a work no less artistically refined than Shakespeare's. For example, the psychological conflict of Set, who sees Osiris receiving everything while he receives nothing, and his decision to kill Osiris, this clearly echoes Macbeth. Then the conflict between Horus and his uncle Set over Horus's legitimate right resembles elements of Hamlet. The beautiful love story between Isis and Osiris reminds us of Romeo and Juliet. Thus, we see that we are dealing with a narrative work that cannot in any way be classified as primitive.